Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Andrea Miller. I'm going to be your hostess for this evening, and I am thrilled to have you with us. Tonight is November 5th. In 2 more days, we will have the vote for the control of the Virginia General Assembly. So this is going to be quite an election. This is also going to be the election year when Mississippi, our fellow state that loves having statewide and state elections in off years, joins us, along with Kentucky. Louisiana already did theirs, and New Jersey. So the interesting states are always doing something in the odd numbered years. But in spite of all the different things happening in all the states, there are so many things that I read, and again, looking at the money, looking at the people that are here canvassing, all eyes are on Virginia for this 2023 election. So tonight, you will have me, you will have our very special guest, Simon Rosenberg, and I'm holding my arms together so I can't go all silly fangirl on him. And everybody knows my buddy, my brother at the hip down in Georgia, Ray McClendon. Ray is joining us tonight as well. So we've got just about everybody here, and I am going to share my screen, and we will go ahead and get started with our presentation. And here we are. All right. And welcome to Virginia 2023, the state of the state. So Virginia has 133 cities and counties. No, we didn't work in all of them, but we worked in an awful lot of them. Now, people who have been to our presentations before have seen this, so you know not to faint when you see all the red. All the red is predominantly in some very, very rural areas where there are generally more cows than there are people. The areas that are blue and very, very tiny are our urban areas where there are a lot of people. So what we were told going into this was there were roughly 37 seats that were probably going to stay in Republican hands based on where they were. There were 31 seats that were probably going to do the same for Democrats. And then there were going to be 32 seats where whoever worked the hardest and the smartest would probably pick up those seats. So election day in Virginia is November 7th, and it's our entire General Assembly, all 100 seats of the Virginia House and 40 seats of the Virginia Senate. Now, at Center for Common Ground, we are all about turning out the early vote. And when we look at turnout versus 2021 versus 2023, early voting is over. It ended on November 4th. So you can see the total was less. But again, think of it as 2021 is our statewide election. The governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general are at the top of the ticket. The 2023 election, this is equivalent to our midterm. So when I look at these numbers, I'm going, this is not bad. I'm pretty pleased. Now, again, remember, Virginia has only had early voting for everybody since 2020. So that's pretty new for us. And everybody who's signed up, you are going to get a copy of these slides. So the Virginia Public Access Project did a very nice job of tracking early voting and then breaking it down to kind of give people a feel for what happened. Now, I want you to notice in 2023, the number 40.9, and it's red. In 2023, Governor Youngkin decided he was going to put the might of the Republican Party and his PAC behind early voting and really, really push the Republicans to come out and early vote. Remember, he who shall not be named said early voting and vote by mail was totally fraudulent and good Republicans didn't do such things. Well, Mr. Youngkin has other ideas. So what is interesting is there is an uptick. Am I that panicked about it? Not really. But again, it does represent a change, and it will be interesting to see moving forward if they continue to press early voting. I always like to have these slides where I'm showing the top 10 early voting turnout in both the Senate and the House. All the races that have a check mark. These are races where we have actively been working. And if we are actively working the race, we are actively pushing early voting. When we look at the House side, again, you see a number of races where we are really pushing, and these are the top 10 early voting turnout on the House side. President Biden and Vice President Harris did something unusual this year. They endorsed Senate and House candidates in Virginia. And so, in order by their district numbers, Delegate Schuyler Van Valkenburg in Senate District 16, which is basically in central Virginia. Delegate Clint Jenkins, Senate District 17, which is in Hampton Roads, Senator Aaron Rouse and Senator Monty Mason, both in Hampton Roads, Joel Griffin in Central Virginia, Delegate Danica Rome and Russet Perry in Northern Virginia. On the House side, again, we see endorsements in Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, and in Central Virginia. And Amy Loeffler is out in Charlottesville. So that is starting to move down toward our Southwest Virginia. So as you can see, we saw a lot of candidates being endorsed by the president and the vice president. In this race, we are seeing the most expensive races we have seen in the history of Virginia. Senate District 31 is now an $11 million race. And there's probably going to be more money pushed in literally on the last 2 days. Again, everyone who is here, everyone who signed up, you will get these slides. So I'm going to call out the highlights. Now, in this race, this is one of the main races where we worked. When we look at the early voting numbers, Russet Perry is at about 62%. So we know it's not going to remain that high once we go into election day, but that kind of makes me feel a little more comfortable. Another incredibly expensive race down in Henrico County is topping $10 million. And again, when we look at the early voting, we are right under 60% on the Democratic side, which is another race that we are working. And we do currently still have C3 phone banks for Senate District 16. Hint, hint. We also have phone banks up and running for Senate District 24. And again, this is a state Senate race that is on its way to $9 million. And we are literally at 51% in terms of early voting turnout on the Democratic side. As I said, I'm only doing top numbers. This race, I know I use it, is the most lopsided Senate race that we have in Virginia. It is not the most lopsided that we have in terms of early voting turnout by a party, but it's pretty lopsided in terms of both money and then also early voting. Now, the House races. Our House races, we have several of them that are north of $5 million. So, Simon, I'm smiling because the Senate races that I covered there in your newsletter, we were working on them before we saw them in your newsletter, but it was like, Simon and I, we agreed. Yay. He's chuckling. I promised I wasn't going to go all fangirl on you. So I'm going to fold my hands and go back to what I was doing. Josh Cole has lost the race by 73 votes in 2017, won the race in 2019, lost the race in 2021. So I want him to win the race in 2023 and keep it. So this is one race I don't have to keep worrying about. Josh is a very dear friend. He is a lovely human. So again, when we look at the early voting numbers, they are not huge, but you can see where the trend is going. And then Virginia Beach race, again, on its way to $6 million. This race is a close race since we don't have that many early votes in, and I am positive a lot more votes are going to be coming in. And then probably one of our most famous races is the Battle of the Kimberleys. And again, as I said before, we are north of $5 million in a race that is centered in the poorest community in Virginia, which is Petersburg. So again, when we look at the early voting turnout, the trend is definitely going toward the Democrats, but the ads are vicious. And then Simon, because of your blog, I put up a phone bank for Josh Thomas. So phone bank team, please grab a couple of calls for Josh. This is another race. It's north of $5 million. It's in Prince William County, which is in Northern Virginia. But because it's Prince William, I've got to be concerned about Prince William and Loudoun and even Fairfax. So again, this race in terms of early voting is very, very close. On our C3 side, 291,000 postcards have been sent through our Reclaim Our Vote campaign. and 265,000 postcards. There may actually be more through the C4 National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia. So, as I said, um, our phone banks will be open tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., and they will be open on election day from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. We are calling SD33 in Prince William County. We are calling SD17 in Portsmouth, SD24 in Newport News, and SD16. Let me translate those into humans. Actually, there's an SD21 on top of it now, which is Josh Thomas. SD33 is the Jennifer Carroll Foy race. SD17 is the Clint Jenkins race. SD24 is the Monty Mason race, and SD16 is the Skylar Van Valkenburg race. So far, since August 21st, we have made 130,255 calls. And I'm going to say a huge thank you to our postcard team, who is responsible for 96,000 of those calls. We also are making calls for women. There are 13 phone banks that are up for the endorsed women on the NWPC side. And we have the link to their phone bank page there. We use the same system. So once you've made calls on the C3 or the C4 side, you will be able to just go to a different website, choose a different phone bank, and make calls. Now, our phone bank team this past weekend converted to a canvassing team, and you can see two of our phone bankers over on the left holding the literature that we put out. Our GOTV literature is all about making a plan to vote, all the early voting locations, if you have a problem voting, the phone number of your registrar, and if you're going to vote on election day, when is the polling open, and this is the ID that you need. So again, we are all about making sure our voters have information. And in the past couple of days, our phone bank team, they have knocked on 440 doors. And when people were having a yard sale, they visited the yard sale. We also did some canvassing with partners over in Senate District 17. They were working on souls to the polls. So it was several groups that were part of the D9, and they were in a community center, and they launched their own utilizing our data and our canvassing tools. They did their own canvas. And I am going to do the first. We would love to have you donate to Center for Common Ground, not only so we can finish up this Virginia campaign, because we noticed when we pulled the phone bank team back, because it was so expensive to run it, because they're able to make so many phone calls, we noticed the early voting numbers really took a hit. Early voting is over, and we've got to get people to the polls. So we would love it if you would remember us and donate. Now, we're not going to have any more Sunday events, but I will be back on Thursday with a recap of what happened in Virginia. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing because I am all excited to introduce our guest tonight, Simon Rosenberg. We have seen Simon. He's a strategist, he's a political commentator We've seen him on everything worth paying attention to the political commentary. If it's garbage, Simon has never been there. I am very, very proud to say. And enough of my introduction. I want to hear Simon's take on Virginia and anything else he cares to talk about. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And listen, I just want to say that's incredible work you're doing. It's really just so great to be able to support you and everything you've been able to do and all that you will do in the next few days, because Virginia is very close. We really have no idea what's going to happen in the election. It could come down, as it has before, down to a handful of votes in a few districts. I mean, I've been following it very closely. And I do think that Youngkin gave the early vote. The Republicans did a little bit better in the early vote than we'd expected. But, you know, the polling is good. Our candidates have raised tons of money. We should feel good about where we are. But I think how we close in the next couple of days, calls we're going to make, you know, the residual canvassing that's left in a few places, it's going to really matter. I mean, I got very good reports this weekend from people who were out of doors making calls. There was lots of receptivity. There's energy level went up. So, you know, fingers crossed, everybody. But the work that you do in the next couple of days, the money you donate, could really make the difference in a state that's been repeatedly decided by so few votes. And also, you know, so few people are voting this year, as Andrea showed you, is that you know, so the calls matter more because of a low turnout election. If it was a big presidential, it gets lost in the sea of activity. But this is a place where your energy and your passion can really make a big difference. Let me just say a few things about where we are. And I always start my talks by talking about 2022, because 2022 was a miraculous election. Even though Biden had low approval and there was high inflation, we ended up you know, there were what I call two elections. There was a bluer election inside the battleground and a redder election outside. Inside the battleground, many of the same states we're going to be fighting in 2024. We actually gained ground from 2020 in Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Minnesota, Michigan, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. We got to 59% in Colorado, 57% in Pennsylvania, 55% in Michigan, 54% in New Hampshire. Those are amazing results in a good year. And this was, you know, a close competitive election. So our performance in the battleground was incredible. And a large part of that has to do with all of you and the work that you do. We're raising unprecedented amounts of money for our campaigns. We're building these unprecedentedly large muscular campaigns that allow us to control the information environment. But also, most importantly, it allows the campaigns to interact with all of you, so that all this passion and intensity and love of country that all of you exhibit and the work that you do is channeled properly into the right places. And that has to do, and so our campaigns now are not only controlling the information environment, we're pushing turnout to the upper end of what's possible. And 2022 was an amazing election, right? We gained a Senate seat, we picked up state legislative chambers, we picked up governorships in what was supposed to be a red wave. The red wave, we're still waiting for the red wave a year later. But the admonition is that in 2022, where we didn't build these big muscular campaigns, we fell back. We fell back in California, New York, Florida, and Texas. And it was a reminder that the Republicans still have a lot of power, that the right-wing noise machine they've built, this propaganda machine, this unprecedentedly large propaganda machine, still has the ability to drive our politics and dictate our daily discourse. And so part of what I've talked about this year is that we need to not only do all the amazing work we're doing in elections, which we do well, and all of you, this is now, you know, you're part of this amazing organization, but there are hundreds of other organizations all around the country, some very small, working in local areas, some big, and all of you are getting more sophisticated, more capable, you know, much more sophisticated and capable every cycle. And so what I've been stunned by in my work with these groups, and I speak to 2 or 3 groups a week, every week, is just how incredibly sophisticated all this work is, how heavily targeted, how leveraged it all is in the right places. I mean, you saw that presentation. I mean, that was amazing. That could have been the DNC or the DCCC or the DSCC, right? And, you know, so what I'm really pleased by, and one of the reasons I'm so excited to be sort of plugging into all this, is that my old organization, I advised senators and congressmen and party committees, and now I'm sort of trying to advise all of you, right? Because I think this is where our superpower now is. There are millions of Americans who decided they're not going to let their democracy slip away. And all of you, because you love your country, are fighting, as you know, in ways, in unprecedentedly sophisticated and effective ways. It's been amazing to see with my own eyes what we've been able to do. Just regular people, right, who are fighting to make sure their country is there for their kids and their grandkids the way it's been for all of us. And so, first of all, so just to say it again, thanks to all of you. But what's happened in 2023 is what we hoped, was that strong momentum, that strong overperformance that we had in 2022 has carried on all across the country. There have been 27 special elections for the House and Senate, and we have outperformed our 2020 numbers by 8 points. There was a race just in New Hampshire a few weeks ago. It was a Republican district. Trump won it twice. We won by 12 points. These are amazing performances. Forget about the polling, right? What matters is how people are actually voting. The 538 just did an analysis of a wider group of elections in 2023, and we're outperforming our partisan lean in the district by 10 points. These are incredible performances, again, because of the grassroots army around the country that is pushing our performance to the upper end of what's possible. We need that, though, that momentum to carry on, through this election day. And we're playing in some tough states here, right? Mississippi, Kentucky, Virginia is getting a little bit too close for us, right? We've got the ballot initiative in Ohio, which looks good, right? The early vote's been good, the polling's good, but you never know, right? This is a tough environment. And so this has been a great year for us. And, hopefully can show this energy and this passion is going to show up on election day. And that will end the year on an up note to head into 2024. And I do want to say that when I look forward to 2024, here's what I see as a chess player, as a strategist, right? Moving the pieces across the board. There's some basic realities I think we have to all get connected with, right? Joe Biden is a good president. The country is better off. The Democratic Party is strong and winning elections all across the country, and our bench is the strongest that it's ever been. And what do they have on the other side? They've got Trump and MAGA and an extremist speaker and insurrection and Dobbs and all the things that voters have been voting against repeatedly in the battleground and election after election. I can see our path, right? Joe Biden, we know from polling that when voters are informed about what Joe Biden's done, his numbers go way up. People's appraisal of him goes way up, including with some of the groups that are wandering a little bit right now in our coalition, right? It's not surprising we're a year before election. It would be shocking when there's no election going on that our coalition will have all come back with the same intensity as it was on election day, right? We shouldn't be concerned, in my view, about our coalition not having come back together. We don't have an election. There's no reason for marginal Democrats at this point to be paying attention to the presidential race. I think by February or March, when it's clearly going to be Biden and Trump, you're going to see Biden gain 3-4 points and start to open up a meaningful lead. We'll see, have me back. We'll see if I was right about that, because I think people will start checking in, and there's more of us than them. I can see our path. Joe Biden makes the case for re-election, right? We have this muscular grassroots. We've got great candidates all across the country. And we know from polling that when he makes his case that his numbers go up. How do you sell Trump? Right? I mean, how do you sell him? Right? He wants the planet to warm. He wants more dead kids in schools. He wants 10-year-olds to be having babies. He wants their party will be for a national abortion ban in 2024. He will be, by the time the summer comes around, he will have potentially been convicted for what may be the largest security breach in the history of the United States. The insurrection that he led has now, there have been more than 1,000 people who've been convicted or pled guilty in the insurrection, and that's spreading to now party leaders all across the country. He may just in the next few weeks be convicted for one of the largest financial frauds in the history of the United States. How do you put lipstick on that pig, right? How do you sell that to the American people? I don't think you can. And it's why I think the way we should be thinking about the election next year is not just about winning and grinding it out, by a few votes, but we need to try to get to 55% and win the election by 10 points. We need to aspire, and we need to aspire to grow our coalition, take away real estate from them, Because if we can make this election a clear repudiation of MAGA, it will start to loosen MAGA's dark grip on the Republican Party, is my hope. I think it's all of our hopes. I think we all would like to go back to a period where we didn't have to worry that if we stumbled in an election, we could lose our democracy. And to me, the only way that's going to happen is that we've got to beat the Republicans badly in 2024, the way we've been doing in 2023. We won Wisconsin by 56%. We just got to 57% in Ohio. We won in Jacksonville, Florida, and in Colorado Springs, two heavily Republican cities. We took that stuff away from them. Their extremism is giving us opportunities to grow our coalition. Most important of all is with young people. This is where our biggest opportunities are to expand our coalition. And it's also with a group of people who are very democratic, but don't always vote as much as we want, right? And as I like to say, young people not voting is not their fault, it's our fault. And it's because we have to build a politics where young people are at the center of everything we do and not at the kids' table. This is something I think we can do. We have the power to do. We'll take some questions in a minute. But I just want to end by saying, in every way possible, as I look forward, I would much rather be us than them. Joe Biden's been a good president. The country's better off. The Democratic Party is strong and winning elections all across the country. And they have Trump. Who would you rather be? I know the answer that I have for that. I hope all of you will join me in that. But thank you all for what you're doing. Happy to take a few minutes of questions. Excited to be with all of you and excited about what's going to happen in Virginia on Tuesday.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Simon. I always feel inspired when I read you. It's even cooler to actually be here and have you say it. Josie, Carol, do you want to give some of the questions in the chat because I've seen some? Yes.
Yes.
So grateful for. I love that. Hopium Chronicles.
I do. Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Go ahead, Josie. Go ahead. I'm fangirling again. Never mind.
I will make sure to also in the follow-up email include a link to subscribe to Hopium Chronicles if you haven't yet. But one of the questions we got was, I'm hearing a lot of people of color are going to sit out this election. What do you suggest we as a party do about this? And I think this is about 2024.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no question that younger voters and younger voters of color have wandered a little bit from our coalition right now. We know that in the New York Times poll. There's been other polls that have shown that. I'm not, this is something we can fix, right? We have a year to fix it. But we only get fixed, if we make it important and if it becomes central to everything that we do. I think we have the resources, we have the strategy, I think we have the arguments, right? And I think that, temporarily, I think this, certainly the trauma that we're seeing in the Middle East is shocking to everybody. I mean, this shouldn't make anybody feel good about the world, the United States, anything that's happening, right? It's been a shocking set of events. And I do think October 7th changed our domestic politics. Joe Biden now is going to be more likely to be sort of a wartime president during the course of this election. And I think we're at the very early stages of both the Ukraine conflict and the conflict in the Middle East. These are now going to be with us for the whole election. We're in the very early days. There could be enormous evolution of these two conflicts during the course of the election. And I think this is for younger Americans, many of whom who don't have the memory of Islamic jihadism and what happened with 9/11 and the war on terror and so on. They may not know as much as older Americans about the history of the Middle East and how, we were attacked, right, by an ideology that's very, very similar to Hamas, right? ISIS is a cousin of Hamas. And so I think older Americans, have some greater context and understanding of all these things. Younger Americans are going through, I think, many of these thoughts and feelings for the first time. And we should welcome this debate. We should welcome this challenge. There's nothing to fear from it, because I think Joe Biden is doing the right thing in very, very difficult circumstances. But it's also very early. And, certainly I'll just say as a Democrat, the idea that the fate of our country or our party is tied to Bibi Netanyahu is not something that I think that anybody of us ever could have imagined. And it's really important that I think we continue to be very vocal about the need for Bibi to go. He's got to go. He's lost the faith of the Israeli people. It's very hard, I think, for all of us to stay committed to Israel with him as leader. He's a failed leader. He's an extremist. He's reckless and irresponsible. And we can't be tying our fate to him. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think the most constructive thing we can be doing in the short term is to continue to raise the issue of trying to for Bibi to go. I'm going to write about this tomorrow and hope he's got to go. And he's got to go for the good of the people of Israel and Jews throughout the world. I mean, we're seeing unprecedented rise of anti-Semitism in the United States that predated the war, right? And seeing it all around the world. One can be pro-Palestinian and not be anti-Jew. And somehow we've got to figure out a way to get to that place here and everywhere where you can be for Palestine and for two-state solution and for free Palestine, but not be anti-Jew. These are going to be tough issues, but we've got time. And I think we've got a good argument to make, and we should be patient, but we should be determined. And this is really important. We can't let any elements of our coalition to wander.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Carol. You can ask the next one.
Someone just put in a kind of a private question just to me, but how do you anticipate the college student turnout will be in Virginia? Are they motivated and activated? That wasn't the question I was going to ask, but that is one that Ayanna Burris has asked in the chat. College students.
Does anyone want to jump on that?
Andrea, you have an answer to that? How do you anticipate the college student turnout will be in Virginia? Are they motivated and activated?
Well, we have not been doing that much work on college campuses. Our work has been in communities, not the college campuses. Janice might be able to address that. We're going to be more on college campuses next year because we'll be rolling out a whole young people phone bank, young people things that we're doing. So that colleges are not one of our targets. So I am not really sure.
Stay tuned. It's a stay tuned because we're about to go there again.
Basically. Yeah, and the quick answer is
Sandy Radoff is here, Students for Justice. Well, our internship program.
Youth turnout has not been great in Virginia, and it wasn't connected to any set of events. I think it wasn't a major priority for the party, frankly. And I will say that the DNC sent in Eve Levinson, who's the National Youth Vote Director for the whole national party. She's been working in Virginia full time for weeks, and she's been, canvassing and leading canvasses. I've been tweeting her stuff out quite a bit. I mean, she's the entire national youth director for the whole re-election campaign. She's been basically living in Virginia and doing everything she can. So I think it came late, but I think that she works very closely. Somebody mentioned Voters for Tomorrow. And she mobilized all the grassroots groups. I did a call with all the youth groups that works with the DNC 3 weeks ago. And the whole call was about Virginia and about focusing their resources on Virginia. And so I think we did what we could, but it was late. And this is what I mean. I mean, we have to make young people at the center of everything we do as Democrats. And if we do that, I think we're going to be okay. If we don't, then we shouldn't expect the kind of results that we need in the election next year.
And right. And I'm sorry. Our new program will begin in February. So again, I see Sandy Radoff, who runs our intern program. So Sandy, do you want to chime in?
Andrea, you would have to make her co-host so she can unmute herself.
Got it. You're co-host. You've got your mic.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sandy Radoff. I co-direct along with Claire Ullman the Students for Justice Initiative, which is a student internship program that operates on a number of HBCUs in Washington, D.C., Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia. And we have 45 interns this fall who have been focusing all of their energies on Virginia. Now, they plug into the phone banking and the postcarding that is going on with Center for Common Ground, which generally does not focus on young people. But a huge part of their energy is they work in teams and develop 1 or 2 TikToks every week that get turned into Instagram posts, and we put paid media behind that. And we are getting thousands of views, and that is all going to young people in Virginia. I mean, we'll have we'll have the final results, probably later on this week, but we're getting a lot of young eyeballs on the social media, and that's where the young people are. So we're doing our part. We can't connect that exactly to how many of them actually turn out to vote, but they're getting, they're getting the information.
That's fantastic. One question that's come up a couple of times is a question about the third party candidates. Whether it's Cornell West or No Labels. Simon, would you comment on that a bit?
Yeah, the way I like to think about this, and third party, rogue party, splinter party, whatever we're going to call it, is that the most important one of those organizations are the Never Trump or Never MAGAs, who will be a force in 2024. They were a major force in 2022 and in 2020. And we should start in any conversation we have, I think, about these efforts, to start with the one that's aligned with us, and that's actually pulling Republicans to vote for us and increasing and widening our coalition. Imagine if Liz Cheney endorses Biden next year and campaigns with him, and the permission structure that will create for moderate Republicans to leave the Republican Party temporarily, right, and to be with us in 2024. There's enormous power there. And so my view is that any discussion of the third party effort should start with one that's already been wildly successful and that's aligned with us. In terms of the other now 3 efforts, right, Cornell West, Robert Kennedy Jr., and No Labels, I want, the way I'm approaching them is twofold. One is, the answer to all of them is we just have to build up Joe Biden and the Democrats. The stronger we are, the less they'll matter in the election. Second is that I think both Cornell West and Robert Kennedy are crappy candidates, and I don't think we'll be able to achieve, what they could achieve under other circumstances if they were better candidates, if they didn't have so much extremism behind them and so on. And then finally, No Labels doesn't have a candidate. So I don't know how real that's going to be. And I think it's really important that we don't give them power that they don't have themselves, they haven't earned. If they're going to be a factor, let them go do it. We shouldn't be giving them power without them earning it. And I think one of the things I talk about in my talks is that I think Democrats in general need to be spending much more time talking about us and our accomplishments and less time talking about them. I don't ever want to see another picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene the rest of my life. I think it's like rubbernecking sometimes in the Democratic Party, right? We're like fascinated by their awfulness, and we end up spending too much time focused on them and not enough time on us. Again, I go back to this basic reality. When voters learn more about what Joe Biden's done, the appraisal of him goes up, his numbers go up. We have to be a loud chorus helping tell the story of the good works of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. It's really important. And that's why I talk about how I think we have to think of the war room very differently now. I worked in the war room 31 years ago. And when you think of the war room, you think of like 20 sweaty kids drinking Red Bulls, producing TikTok videos. You need to think of the war room now as 1 million, 2 million Americans wired together, people who love their country, who are spreading, through their networks, 5 people, 10 people a day, but 1 million people reaching 5, 10 people each. That's, it's an awful lot of people, right? 5, 10 million people. Tucker Carlson in his heyday only reached 3 million people a night. So I think we have more agency and power in fighting back the Republican domination of our daily discourse. It's not just up to Joe Biden and the Democrats, it's up to us. Think of it as a little victory garden, right? In an information war that we're all fighting every day. And it's something where I think all of us can do more. Look, we do amazing work as a family in campaigns. We have to develop this other muscle, which is we have to get louder in the daily discourse, the daily fight, because it's where they still have an advantage over us. And I'm confident that if we do this together, that we can make an extraordinary difference in 2024.
I love that, Simon. And I am going to give you a rest. And hopefully you will have a moment to hear Janice Gay, who is our Democracy Center leader in Virginia Beach. That means they're working year-round with the Black community, specifically so many members of the community that don't vote. And Janice also has built our paid phone bank team, which this week became the canvassing team. So Janice, and yep, you got, there she is. Hey,
Hello, everyone. How are you? Yes, again, like Andrea said, my name is Janice Gay. I am a democracy centered leader and the phone bank manager for Center for Common Ground. I get the privilege and honor of managing some awesome youth and young adults. They're on the phone Monday through Sunday from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. They're engaging voters in conversations, of course. They're also talking to voters about voting locations, times, and giving them all kinds of information about their local registrar's offices. But also this week past, we canvassed. So we were in SD 17, had an awesome time engaging voters in conversations, leaving them with information on their door as door hangers, leaving their information on their doors. Yes, attending yard sales and talking with folks as well. It has been a privilege and an honor just to be able to talk with our voters, to give them information, to be able to get their feedback about early voting as well. And while talking to some of them, they've extended a great big thank you to each and every one of you. They say, thank you for taking your time out to just make a phone call. Thank you for knocking on doors as well and keeping them informed. But most importantly, thank you for your support and showing up. That matters to us as well as to our voters. So again, as we get in gear, ready to, yes, make a difference in Virginia, but beyond, we just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Again, my name is Janice Gay, and I have the privilege and honor of being a part of this awesome team.
all right, thank you, Janice. Okay, now, can you believe that we have been here for more than 45 minutes? I can't, I'm just shaking my head. Time has gone like that. And Janice, one of the things that we talked about was building out the notion of this phone bank team in our partner states, in other democracy centers, so that Janice's team, they support Virginia, they supported Wisconsin, and they did some support in Georgia. I would love to introduce my friend and fellow good troublemaker, Ray McClendon of Communities United for Justice in Georgia, to sort of help us look forward into 2024, because yes, Virginia will be done on Tuesday. We do not have runoff elections, so 95% of our races will be decided on Tuesday night. In the event there is a recount, whoever wins the recount, be it by one vote, wins. And in the event there is a tie, we draw a name out of a fishbowl, a hat, or something, but there will be no runoffs in Virginia. So by the end of the week, we should have a very good idea as to what the Virginia legislature looks like, which means we then have to turn and look south. And the first place I always look is our partner down in Georgia. So Ray, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, and it's always an honor to be with you and the great folks at the Center for Common Ground. We have been delighted to be partners over the last 3 election cycles with the Center for Common Ground here at Communities United for Justice. We have worked to build great coalitions through collaboration of a number of different grassroots organizations across the state of Georgia that were very successful in the win in 2020. by the 11,799 votes that we've heard so much about. We've also been successful in getting out the BIPOC vote for the runoffs in the Senate races in January of 2021. And we talked about 2021 as well. Something that Simon alluded to was that there was a great impact in a number of municipal races in 2021 that was a foreshadowing that there wouldn't be a red wave when we saw over 40 municipal races in 2021 get converted to progressive elected officials. So that continues through 2023, and we're preparing now for 2024 with our what we call relational organizing strategy, where we are identifying grassroots organizations where we work together in collaboration to put out trusted messengers in the 159 counties across the state of Georgia that have targeted messaging based upon making the case for why you should vote progressive. Someone made the point earlier, or asked the question earlier, specifically about BIPOC voters and the leakage we were having. And a part of that has to do with disinformation and misinformation that's going on. The way that we get those back from some of the influencers who have been bought off or are not well versed in politics and are trying to make the case for being involved with the orange one and others, is that they don't know the facts. And a part of what we will be building over the next 12 months is to get trusted messengers in these communities to touch these voters directly with the facts and with messaging that deals with their pain points. We found that to be very effective when you have local people that are known in their communities, leaders in their communities, service providers in those communities to actually make the case. So, so that is how we operate in terms of bringing those leaders to the table and bringing their armies of volunteers in these local communities. Well, if we base it on the volunteers, then what's critical is that we have an infrastructure, technology infrastructure, expertise that then will allow them to execute, whether it be phone banking, text banking, canvassing, delivering those messages to those voters in the most efficient and effective way. And that's why our partnership with Center for Common Ground has been so extraordinary. We would not be able to do the work that we have done if we didn't have the platform and the partnership with the Center for Common Ground. So not only are they doing the great work that you see in Virginia, but they are the backbone infrastructure behind what we get done in Georgia and what we'll be doing along in other states as well. So please give to the Center for Common Ground, and know that when you're making a donation to the Center for Common Ground, you're supporting organizations that will be increasing voter turnout across the South by virtue of the great work and support that they give to all of us. So thanks for allowing us to be in partnership, Andrea, and to all of her great team. We've had training sessions with all of them. They are passionate. They have great expertise, great customer service, and they're just a delight to work with so that we can really focus on delivering the messaging that's necessary in order to make sure that we get the maximum turnout across Georgia and other states. So thank you so much.
And thank you, Ray. And as Ray mentioned, Virginia and Georgia, we will probably be working together forever. Our Alabama people were here. We absolutely love the hard work. We're looking in 2020 to 2024 to try to ensure we have funding so that we can continue working in Virginia, in Georgia, in Alabama. Remember, Alabama is redistricting. They're going to have another congressional seat, North Carolina, South Carolina. We have people that would love us to go to Mississippi again. We've been invited to look at Florida. So, and we've been invited to look at Tennessee. So all those states are states where we have a strong BIPOC population that, as you said, Simon, when the party and the candidates do GOTV, we frequently get passed by because we either don't vote at all or we're very, very inconsistent voters. And what we found, and I used to use this all the time, think of elections as being a community dance. Everybody knows where the dance is. Everybody knows when the dance is. You just have some people who don't feel that they are invited, so they don't show up. What we do at Center for Common Ground is we invite people to come and join us in the dance, and the dance just happens to be democracy. So we have a great time, and I'm not going to make any other announcement. Well, I'll make a generic announcement without naming names. We found out this week that one of our Democracy Center leaders, because again, the whole idea behind the Democracy Centers is people learn about issues, they learn more about politics. One of our own has decided she's going to run for Congress. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's up to her to jump in and put it in the chat and go, it's me, it's me, it's me. So yes, Simon, thank you so very much for joining us. I had the best time. I mean, I'd like to think I wasn't too ridiculous and fangirly tonight. I was really trying hard.
Listen,
Now I'm going to get the giggles.
Yeah, listen, I'm so impressed with everything you're doing here. Listen, we got 2 days, everybody. We got to go fight really hard. Do everything you can. It's all on the line here. We know in Virginia, I mean, that fishbowl you described, that actually really happened, right? A couple of years ago,
Yes.
there was an
Yes.
actual tie
Yes.
where they, so things are very close here. The work you do at the end here can make the difference. And thanks for this amazing organization that's doing all this great work here in Virginia, but out throughout the South. I mean, I didn't really understand how extensive your work is. It's so impressive. It's been great to be with all of you tonight. Good luck, everybody, on Tuesday.
Oh, Simon, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight, for donating, for getting on the phone tomorrow and Tuesday. And yes, let's make this happen, because remember, our original campaign is called Reclaim Our Vote, not their vote, not your vote. It's our vote. Because when we get everybody in working on democracy, then democracy works for all of us. So thank you all. Everybody take care. Good night.